The U.S. Army carried out strikes on military equipment of unspecified armed groups in eastern Syria. The attack was conducted in self-defense following an assault on the American base in the country, reports the U.S. Central Command. The U.S. military reported that on the night of December 4, forces successfully destroyed several weapon systems near the MSS Euphrates military outpost. According to the statement, 3 multiple rocket launchers mounted on trucks, AT-64 tank, an armored personnel carrier, and mortars were destroyed. The military equipment posed a clear and imminent threat to U.S. and coalition forces, CENTCOM added. The U.S. strikes were a response to fire from the multiple rocket launchers, armored personnel carriers, and mortars directed at the U.S. base. The U.S. military did not specify who fired at American forces in western Syria on December 3. However, it was emphasized that the incident is unrelated to the ongoing offensive by insurgents against forces loyal to President Bashar al-Assad in the Aleppo and Idlib provinces. CENTCOM stressed that the U.S. mission in Syria remains unchanged, as U.S. and coalition forces continue to focus on the final defeat of ISIS. The ongoing support of regional partners and operations in Syria are unrelated to recent events in northwest Syria. CENTCOM forces continue to monitor the situation and remain in constant communication with our other forces in the region as the situation develops, the U.S. military statement said. General Major Pat Ryder, a spokesperson for the U.S. Department of Defense, stated during a briefing that the Pentagon is currently investigating who was responsible for the attack on the U.S. base in Syria. He also noted that pro-Iranian militants have often been behind attacks on U.S. forces in the region. In July, U.S. military forces in northeastern Syria were attacked by a drone. The attack resulted in several U.S. and coalition service members being injured.
The North Korean regime provided ballistic missiles to the Russian army not only to strengthen the country's capabilities. Valery Ryabik, a Ukrainian military expert and development director of the Defense Express Information and Consulting Company, said this on Espresso. Many of these missiles, according to technical experts who examined them, are in very poor technical condition. Some missiles were falling apart in the air. The North Korea handed over the weapons to the Russian Federation, among other things, for real combat testing and changes to its design. Therefore, the missiles can be made more accurate, powerful, and deadly in the future, which is a grave threat that Ukraine should take into account, he said. According to the Defense Ministry's main intelligence directorate, there are currently at least 100 missiles that have been delivered to Moscow from the North Korea, including for the purpose of terrorizing the civilian population of Ukraine. The military expert explained why ballistic missiles cannot be called high-precision weapons. They do not meet the requirements of modern warfare. And to hit military targets in areas of dense population, they must be exactly that. For example, the circular deviation of the KN-23 missile is about 600 meters. We already know about 60 episodes of North Korean missile use. They could be either KN-23 or KN-24, but their circular deviation is even greater, Ryabik said. Recall, Ukraine has been hit by a surge in Russian ballistic missile attacks, about a third of which used North Korean weapons that can only fly because they run on Western circuitry obtained despite sanctions, according to Ukrainian military officials. Russia has fired about 60 North Korean KN-23 missiles at Ukraine this year, according to a Ukrainian defense official. That accounts for nearly 1 in 3 of the 194 ballistic missiles fired so far in 2024. A CNN tally of attacks publicly acknowledged by Ukraine's Air Force shows August and September saw a spike in ballistic missile attacks when Ukraine first publicly detailed the use of the KN-23. We see that since the spring, Russia has been using ballistic missiles and attack drones much more to strike Ukraine, and less use of cruise missiles. The acting head of communications of the Ukrainian Air Force, Yuri Ignat, told CNN.
Some storm-weary residents of the Great Lakes region saw additional snow Monday and faced the prospect of even more accumulations this week after U.S. travelers battled harsh weather to get home after Thanksgiving, forecasters said. Lake-effect snow continued to fall on parts of western New York that were already blanketed with a foot or more over the past 4 days. By Monday morning, the village of Cassadaga, east of Lake Erie, recorded 5.5 feet of snow. And snow was expected to continue through Tuesday in the largely rural area south of Buffalo. Lake-effect snow warnings were in effect through Tuesday night in parts of Ohio, New York, and Pennsylvania. Nearly 4 feet of lake-effect snow caused by warm, moist air blowing across the Great Lakes fell over the weekend on upstate New York and parts of Pennsylvania and Michigan. Snow showers fell in western Michigan overnight, and heavier, persistent snow of up to a foot was expected to follow Monday, the National Weather Service said. More snow is expected Wednesday and Thursday, along with gusty winds and freezing temperatures.
Parts of the eastern United States are digging out after the first big snowfall of winter. Some communities have up to several feet of lake-effect snow. So lake-effect snow is when warm, moist air blows across a body of water and mixes with colder, drier air over land. That creates narrow bands of heavy snow. Now, many people here in New York and other areas along the Great Lakes are pretty used to this, but this past weekend saw many people traveling through the region after the Thanksgiving holiday, and some were taken by surprise. One woman spent the night in her car with several children. They were okay, they had food, but they were stuck in a long line of cars overnight. And luckily, in the morning, she said a friendly local person walked along the line of cars with some muffins. So in various ways, people are coping, but there is more snow yet to come for some of these areas later this week.